Good morning, everyone. We are going to give just a couple minutes for people to join and then we will dive in. All right, we will go ahead and get started. I know there's still some attendees that will be trickling in, but we're going to dive in because I know Jolynn has a lot to cover today. I'm Macy Brink. I work at the IT company, and we have been doing these trainings with Jolynn for almost 2 years, I want to say. And they're
Yes.
always excellent, and we always get great feedback. So we're excited to dive into Copilot in Teams and the new features and how to maximize just the capabilities and power that it has.
Hmm.
So we are going to start with Jolynn taking over. And also, if you have any questions throughout, if you want to drop them in the chat, I will be monitoring that throughout and I will either answer myself or I'll guide Jolynn to answer them. So feel free if you, as we're going, have questions in real time, we can answer them as we go as well.
Awesome. So thank you, Macy. Also, Macy did put a copy of the handout available for everyone in the chat. So if you want to go ahead and get that opened, you can use that to follow along, or it will be a great reference tool for you to use after we get done with our session as well. So let's get started. When it comes to using, let me get my Copilot screen shared with everybody here. Microsoft Teams. There we go. It was a little lost there for a second. Sorry about that. So, again, welcome everyone. Today, we're really going to be focusing on how Microsoft Teams really is becoming more than a place for just chats and meetings. We're going to take a look at practical ways to prepare for meetings, capture decisions, find information faster, which is what we all need to be doing, and really turn conversations into follow-up work. So, a quick availability note before we get started. Some of what you see today may vary depending on your license. Team settings can depend also, which we're going to cover some team settings. Administrator policies might have a difference on what it is that you see or how things look, and the rollout timing. Not every organization has the brand new features immediately when they're released. Sometimes organizations don't release brand new features, more so on an increment of once every quarter, once every half a year. So it can all depend on what your company's strategy is on that, just to give you a little side note on that. So before we dive deeper into meetings, channels, and Copilot, I want to show settings because these choices really affect how team feels day to day. A few settings can make teams calmer, easier to scan, and sometimes even less distracting. So some settings are going to be personal, which really is kind of for you to kind of set them for what you want things to look like. So they can be based on your work style. Other settings can be controlled by your organization. So if you don't see an option, it may be managed by IT. Or if it is grayed out, that might be something that is managed by your IT department. But first off, how do we access these settings so that things are set up for you to start using and to start taking advantage of? Well, the settings is located at the top right of the screen. So if you go up by your profile, you're going to have your menu at the top for settings and more. When you click on that menu, you can choose settings from the drop down. Now, once you come into settings, it opens up a whole new window. On the left-hand side, of course, will be the categories. Whatever you click on will change what you see on the right-hand side. So depending on the settings that you want to check out. So first off, I would recommend going through every one of the categories, but I want to point out a couple of them. And one of them is actually the notifications and activities. So on the left, I'm going to start on the notifications and activities. This is where you decide what deserves to interrupt you. The goal is not to turn everything on. The goal is to make important activities visible without letting every message break your focus. So, just to give you an idea of a few things that you might want to be aware of, I don't always want to play sounds with a notification. So, usually for me, I have that turned off. Also, you can see, I'm sorry, I should have started at the top. Mute all notifications is an option, but I don't really recommend you do that. And the reason I don't recommend you do that is because you can control your notifications for when you want, like, do not disturb. So if you have a meeting with, someone in your office and you do not want to get any notifications, you want to give this person your full attention, whatever the case is, you're focusing on working on some tasks, whatever your case might be, change your availability to do not disturb. I'll mention where that is here in a moment when we go back out of this window. Um, so I don't recommend muting all notifications because you still want to be able to get notifications if you don't have your do not disturb turned on. The do not disturb is great because it's only going to interrupt you if something is sent as urgent. Otherwise, things don't come in. So it's not going to bother you, just so you're aware of that. But you want to really kind of go through and say, what exactly do I want turned on? What do I not want to have turned on? And a couple of things that I recommend, once again, it's a personal preference, is under the display show message and content previews. I like having that preview so that when something does pop up, you get a preview of what it is. Also, the position on the screen. Where do you want things to be placed on the screen? Do you want your notifications to stay at the bottom right, which is the default, or would you prefer they go someplace else? What's going to be able to grab your attention the most? What area of your screen? Also, I don't know if you knew this, but there's actually a comfy versus compact on the size. So, do you want things more tight together? You could do the compact view. So, like when you're looking at your chats, there's right now a comfort level of spacing in between those. But if you're always needing to scroll too much, to find information, you might want to change that to compact so it's not as spread out. So these are things that can be just personal preferences that only affect your account, nobody else's, that really can help using Teams to be a better experience. And that's what we need. We want it to be a better experience. So you might want to have, changing where your messages appear. What messages do you want? And down here under the chats and channels section, when you get at mentions, do you want to be notified of those? Under the channel and Teams mentions, where do you want those notifications to show up? It has an option of activity and banner. And I guess I didn't think about explaining the banner situation to people. I just kind of assumed people knew, and I've been asked this lately quite a few times, and so I want to mention it real quick. The banner notifications are the ones that pop up at the bottom right. So do you just want to get an activity notification, which is the activity category on the left-hand side in Teams, and or do you want to get the banner notification too? I like the default of both, the activity notification and the banner notification that shows up and then disappears after, I think it's 7 seconds. But just so you could see, these are things that you can modify. Highly recommend doing that. Another one that I want to highly recommend if you have not already done this. A while back, Microsoft changed Teams and chats to be combined together. And I am finding that there's still a lot of users that are trying to use them together and they don't really like it. Now, Microsoft got a lot of feedback as soon as they combined them together, and people told them, no, we want them to stay separate. You can still have them be combined, but if you want to separate them, which I personally do, chats and channels really don't belong together. They're two separate features, have two separate purposes. So, just so you could see, under the category for chats and channels, you have this combined versus separate. Use separate. It really just makes using the system much more user friendly. And that's what we want. We want to really kind of look at these new features and these capabilities that we have, and we want it to be user friendly for you. We don't want it to be surprises and, oh, I don't really like the way that does that. Well, if you don't like the way something is, you can probably change it. Just like in any of your Microsoft applications, they all have settings. Just because they come a certain way by default doesn't mean that's the way you have to keep it. So, like I said, I would really recommend going through different categories on the left-hand side, just seeing what it is you would prefer to have for those categories. Cosmetically, on the appearance side, you have some options, but also under the calls category, there have been some updated changes, just a few though, when it comes to working in the calls. So if you happen to use Microsoft Teams for calling capabilities, they do have some better security measures when it comes to calls and a few other kind of background things. The usage of it and the way that the features are, they didn't really make any changes to those. So to say, it's really more background things. Your greeting is the same, but keep in mind, you can change the greeting. So if somebody tries to call you and you don't answer after it's 20 seconds by default, it will automatically go to voicemail. You can change your recorded message. So I have the habit, and once again, everybody has habits, but you can change it to be a custom greeting that kind of is, every time you would change your voicemail to say, I'm out of the office, those kind of things, change this as well so that it's reflected through Teams. So if somebody tries to call you, and by the way, if you're not logged in, it directly goes to voicemail. So give them a message that lets them know, hey, I'm not going to get back to you quickly. I'm out of the office. Just kind of the same message that you would do for your standard phone voicemail. Kind of think about those things. Also, managing your out of office voicemail. So just so you could see, when should your greeting play? Do you want it to play all the time or when you set up that you're out of the office? So it can be triggered to automatically be set up when you go to your out of office assistant, as it used to be called. You can have it set up so that it automatically triggers it to turn on your voicemail that way as well. I love that. It is less work on you to have to think about that. So that's something you definitely should turn on so that when you do your out of office, it automatically triggers it here. And you can write a custom greeting over on the right-hand side. So definitely just take some time. And if you have time to do this today, just take 5 minutes out of your day, walk through each of these categories and see what changes it is that can help you use Teams better and to help you be more productive. Because Teams is an application that we use on a very regular basis. So we want to make sure that you're using appropriate options to make things better or easier for you to be using. Okay, so I won't go through any of those other settings. I just highly recommend that you do that. Now, the first demo that I want to start with here today is talk, besides going through the settings, is I want to talk about meeting enhancements, the notes, the transcriptions, the recap, the shared content that we have during meetings. So in this scenario, Let's say that the team needs a better way to prepare for meetings. They need to capture decisions while the conversation is happening and review follow-up after the meeting ends. Okay. Newer meeting experiences may include collaborative notes, really can be powered by loop components. Copilot can be used it can be used before, during, and after the meeting. AI generated recaps should be used. There's meeting recap apps that are available. We have audio and video recaps that we can be doing. There's facilitator. I love the facilitator. There's an interpreter and improved shared content viewing controls available in Teams meetings now. So let's start with a common problem. A meeting ends. Everyone returns to their regular work, and then 2 days later, people are trying to remember what was decided. Teams meeting notes and recap tools can really help reduce that gap. So, as you watch this demo, think about one reoccurring meeting where your team could benefit from a clearer agenda or more visible follow-up. So I'm going to go over to the left-hand side to a Teams calendar, and I'm going to create just a sample project status meeting. I'll call it a project status meeting. So let's say that we had a project that we're working on and we're going to do an update. Everybody's going to talk about what their updates are for the tasks that they're working on, that kind of a thing. So I'm just going to go and say that we're going to do that at 3 o'clock today. I'm just going to right click and say new event, and I'm going to name it project status. Oops, status update meeting. Now, let me kind of talk a little bit about two different things with this. So first off, you would of course have people that you want to invite. So if I want to invite my coworker, maybe I want to invite Britt Wise, I would invite everybody. I would verify that, of course, the date and the time are accurate. I also have this capability of if conflicts arise, let Copilot reschedule this event. And you can see that it's got this menu. So this is a new feature that Teams has. Applicable times, I could say during this time frame, and I could choose what the time frame is for, we're doing it and I want it to be sometime if a conflict ends up happening on the date and time I selected, instead look at this date range for rescheduling this. And I can say morning, I could say midday, I could say afternoon, or I could customize that as well and say from this time to this time is usually best. I love that feature. Copilot can be doing that automatically for you. Let the work that we manually do be done automatically. These are the productivity tools that we really need to start grasping. So just so you know, you could have it do that. I'm not going to choose custom right now. I'll just leave the defaults. So highly recommend checking those things out. Now, of course, if this is going to be a Teams meeting where you're going to use Teams for the connection, make sure you're sliding that button over. Now, two different other things that I want to mention with this. You could start this meeting as an actual channel event. If you do this as a channel event, it's going to ask if you automatically want to invite everybody that is a part of a channel. So if you have a team and a channel that you're going to be doing a meeting about, like we're managing a project in a team, and we have a channel that is either the general channel or a specific channel, you could have this meeting be done directly with that channel. I'll briefly show you where that's located at. But the other side of this that I wanted to mention is in this notes area, it says draft an agenda for me. You can click on that and use Copilot to draft this. Now, I'll demonstrate that in a second, and I use this all the time. But did you know that if you have an email that you were going back and forth with one or more people, that can be turned into a meeting as well? So in Outlook, you can say, I want to create a Teams meeting using Copilot. Let me just briefly show you that here real quick. Okay. So let me come in. Let's say that I have this email. Let me say I have this email, just as an example. So I have this email and I want to turn this into a Teams meeting. It can take the contents of the conversation, whether it's 50 conversations going back and forth on the communication, but you could click on the icon at the top of the ribbon on the Home tab, Schedule with Copilot. What it does with this is it automatically invites everybody that was a part of that conversation, of that meeting, and it will automatically create an agenda based on the contents of that email. So it uses Copilot to do that. So take advantage of these. We work a lot harder and waste a lot of time than we need to. Use these built-in features. So I'm not really going to keep using that at this moment. I'm going to close that window and discard that. But just so you could see, you could do that directly through Outlook. Okay. But back to doing this directly here in Teams. If I click draft an agenda for me, down at the bottom, you can see that it's working on it. But what it can actually do is analyze the information that you have related to that person or those people based on the subject, etc., that you have going on. So it says review the current status of the project, focusing on outstanding tasks, blah, blah, blah. So it can automatically help you build an agenda. To me, this is absolutely fantastic. Now, down at the bottom, you do have a menu that you can tell it to adjust the tone. You could say, add this item in there as well. So all of that can be used. So take advantage of what you're seeing on the screen to let Copilot help you with that agenda. Now, oops, sorry. Let me go back in there a quick second here. So if I wanted to keep this information, I can keep it or I can make my modifications to it, whatever you want. And I highly recommend, if you're not already using this, down at the bottom where it says add an agenda. I use that all the time. This is a great description of what we're going to cover during the meeting so they understand the content of the meeting. But if we have specific topics that we need to cover for our agenda, I put it at the bottom in the loop component. And I'll get to loop components here in a second, but a loop component has major improvements. We've had them around for a long time, but Microsoft has made major improvements, especially here through Teams, because it's more of a shareable component that it's ever had in the past. But it automatically creates this loop component with the agenda placeholders of things that you would need to use during your meeting. Highly recommend taking advantage of this. So I'm going to put in a couple of topics that we need to cover. You know, status of tasks. We need to know any new risks. You know, whatever your case might be, you can add those agenda items in. And this is all being built before the meeting. You can, of course, add more agenda topics that come up during the meeting to this during the meeting. But this is a working list. Now, underneath there, oops, sorry, I scrolled too fast. Underneath there, you're going to see that there's a category here for meeting notes as well. So you have the capability of putting in the meeting notes directly here. Now, honestly, do I do that? No. That's a manual process. I don't do anything manual. I want the system to do it for me. But what I am going to do is follow up tasks. During the meeting, I use the follow up task, which is another piece of the loop component. So I don't do it before the meeting because we don't know what the activities, that we want to assign to other people are going to be, but it gives us that placeholder. And all of this will be available immediately when you start your Teams meeting. But before I leave this window and save this, I'm going to go to the top right and click Options. You always want to make sure your meeting is set up with the appropriate components that can automatically happen before the meeting starts. So always run through this window. You know, whether it's the lobby, can people bypass the lobby, show meeting information on the join screen, require unverified participants, to verify their who they are, etc. Choosing co-organizers. Do you want somebody else to be a co-organizer with you so they have the rights to the same things you do? Who can present? Meaning, who can actually share their screen during the meeting? If this is going to be an open discussion and somebody wants to share their status update through Microsoft Excel or whatever, you might want to have everyone. So just so you could see some things there. Also, if you're going to need interpretation, so the language can be for their language during the meeting, do that as well. Lots of great updates have been changed. They've enhanced a lot of this, made major improvements on these capabilities through Teams. So just so you could see, allow microphones, your cameras, but the big part for me is really down in the recordings and transcripts. Do I want it to start recording and do a transcription immediately during the class or during the meeting? I do usually. Who can record and transcribe? You could change that if needed. Also, down towards the bottom, allow Copilot and facilitator. I'm going to say yes, during and after the meeting, I want to be able to use Copilot and the facilitator. You could see if you hesitate, it's going to give you a little bit more information. So what this basically is saying is if you select during and after the meeting, transcription must be turned on. It isn't required for you to choose it, but during the meeting, if you select off, transcription and recording will also be disabled. I also want facilitator turned on. So take notes, join the meeting chat, and more using the meeting spoken language available if Copilot is enabled. I want facilitator turned on, so it's automatically doing extra in the background. You'll see that as I do this demonstration. I'm going to click apply. So those are things that are not turned on by default that you want to definitely have turned on. Now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to click send on this meeting, and I'm going to go ahead and join this meeting, and I'm going to have it's going to automatically be recording, those kind of things. So I'm going to go to this project status update, even though it's not scheduled to start just yet. Now, of course, I'm already using my video. I'm going to turn that off. I'm going to turn my microphone off. But of course, that's your prep time to make sure everything is working correctly. But of course, once you click join, everybody is joined. Now, of course, if other people are joining, it's going to tell them that it's automatically recording, etc. But because I did notes in that loop component at the bottom of the meeting, it automatically opens up the new notes pane to the window. It is a menu option at the top, just so you could see it can be turned on and turned off. There's your menu at the top. But this notes pane, I'm going to close this recording and transcription, but this notes pane automatically gives you your agenda if somebody wanted to do the meeting notes. But during the meeting, when you are needing to add in action items, you can come in and put those action items in. We need to create a new risk registry. And who are you going to be assigning that to? So, new risk registry, I'll type in. And then who do we want to assign that to? You can only assign it to somebody that was actually in the meeting. So I don't have anybody else in the meeting with me right now, but that's okay. I can assign it to myself. Now, of course, if you're assigning a task to somebody else, it automatically transitions to their to-do as well. So they are automatically notified that they got assigned to this task. I can put in a due date if we need to. I can add additional tasks during this. Whatever it is that you need, you can continue to use. Now, of course, you have a lot of other controls that are going on up at the top as well. Let me maximize this window a little bit better. Under the controls category, we now have these capabilities that we can allow participants to present or they can chat. If that was turned off before starting the meeting, you can quickly and easily now get to these controls right from the menu. Those were basically hidden before. They were under the more category. They were not easy to get to. Now we have a super easy way to use these controls. Also, I'm going to go to share. You have better sharing capabilities than we ever had before as well. Make sure that if you are going to be playing any videos or anything that you do turn on your sound as well, just a side note. But under the more category, you can actually see that there are recording options you can quickly get into, the transcriptions, the facilitator, interpreter. This has been changed to be easier for you to use during the meeting. It's so quick and easy to get to these features now. It was kind of hard to find things before. And this is a very recent update that we have. I love this. This to me has changed the way that I do things. They've made a couple of different gallery changes. There's different sizes now. They've enhanced that a little bit, but you really want to check out these different categories that we have. You can also get other apps and you can use agents during your meeting if you need to, all of those kind of things. But Copilot, because I turned it on, Copilot is available during the meeting. So if we go to the Copilot window, we could be asking it things like, who brought up this topic? So if people were asking questions or whatever, we could be asking Copilot to give us that feedback. Or what if you showed up to the meeting late? You could be asking Copilot, what did I miss? Give me a recap on what has happened so far. You've got some shortcuts, recap the meeting so far, create an agenda for this meeting, highlight the meeting chat. You could be using those suggested prompts as well. But just so you're seeing, there's been some nice major changes, I think. I call them major changes because it is so much easier to use than it ever was before. And I do recommend always practice before you go live, especially with a, really important meeting. Just go in with a coworker or whatever, and you can practice the different features just so you're comfortable with it before you go live. Practice on your own as well. You could just do all this on your own and then you can always delete it when you're done. But I'm going to close that and I'm going to say we're done with the meeting. I'm going to end the meeting. End the meeting for everyone. So now the meeting is done. It's going to let me know when the recording is finished. We'll have access to all the recap information, and that area has definitely changed as well. So when it comes to recapping and those other capabilities, there are major enhancements with the way that the recaps and the transcriptions and everything is used. We could be asking Copilot to put together a very brief summary on the meeting notes so that we could have those shared and we could have so those could be shared with a different group. Then I could ask Copilot to actually create the meeting notes available for everybody that was invited to the meeting. And then, of course, those can be placed wherever you need them to be placed. Now, before I go to the recap, because it will let me know when that is available, I do want to mention I had mentioned doing a meeting through a channel. So if you have an actual team, and let's say I have this 2027 Leadership Conference team, and I have this marketing and communications channel, and we're going to be doing a meeting related to the marketing and communications. And so I want to be able to easily invite everybody that's a part of this team and or that channel. I'm not just going to do a regular meeting. I'm going to go to Teams calendar, and at the top right where the new button is, I'm going to click on that drop down and I'm going to choose channel meeting. Now, by the way, there's new experiences and webinars as well. We don't have time today to go through every new feature, but there's enhancements to webinars. So if you do webinars through Teams, there is a new experience at the top that you can turn on. Highly recommend the new experience. It is fantastic. I could briefly show that to you if we have time today. But just so you could see what happens is a little bit different when we connect to a channel. So first in the meeting, you can turn the channel, pick which channel you're going to use. So I have my leadership. I'm going to choose that marketing and communication. On the right-hand side, once you choose the channel you want to connect this to, make sure you slide over the button to send personal invites. It will invite everybody that's a part of that channel. I love that. That is so great. Now, also, you have other capabilities. You could add in agendas where you could have the same loop component tool that we talked about earlier. But otherwise, you can go into, all the same settings that we had. So on the right-hand side, you can go into more options. You could do all those same settings that we talked about earlier. So if you want to turn on recording and transcription, all of that all can be turned on. Of course, they're not turned on by default. So you do have to have it in your mind to make sure that you go make those adjustments. So that just should become a habit. To me, it's definitely a habit. I turn on during and after the meeting for Copilot to be available, etc. So, of course, once you're done, you would apply, and then, of course, you would do your send, and it's going to invite everybody that was a part of that channel. So you don't have to worry about sending individuals. And for me, this is great because I have forgot people. When I sent out the invite, I forgot people, and it's kind of embarrassing when you do that. So just so you know, it's an option. Now, back into the team, into this marketing and communications channel, you automatically will get a post related to that meeting happening. And what's going to happen is when that meeting starts, there'll actually be an icon next to the name of the channel of a video camera. They can actually join directly from there. So if they come into Teams and they see that video camera, it's like, oh, yeah, that's right. We have that meeting going on because they didn't look at their reminders or whatever. Definitely they can click on it to join it directly from there. So great capabilities that we have there. Now I did get a new chat that came in. So I'm going to go to my chats and you can see here's my recording is ready for that project status update meeting that I had done. So we've got a few enhancements that I want to mention when it comes to these meetings. So right now I can see that here's the history of the chat because at the top I'm actually on the chat tab. So whatever tab you're on, of course, it's going to give you different features. And they've given us some better capabilities with this, but I'll get to that in a second. But just so you could see that it automatically is showing that the recording is available. We also have the transcripts available directly from here, so you could dive into it right there. A lot of times for me, I'm going to go to the top and I'm going to go straight to the recap. The recap tab is going to give you the actual recording, and this has changed just a little bit. Now we go to manage. Go to manage if you want to download it or change the expiration date. I don't know if you knew this, but you get 120 days and this recording will expire. So if you need it saved, make sure that you're going to download, save it to a SharePoint, document library, wherever you need it to reside. For me, if it were channel related, I would want it to be directly in the channel itself in that shared tab, the files. So make sure that you put it where you want it to reside or change the expiration date. If you want it to be longer before it expires, that kind of a thing. But also, if you look at the top right, if you go to the Copilot icon, you can actually ask Copilot different information about the meeting. So I use this every time because I need a place to go back and say, what happened? Who said this, etc. I don't want to go back and watch the entire video to find out this information. I could go back and say, was there a discussion on using notes? Copilot can go out and answer these questions for us. So don't go back. And I have tried to, scan through the video and I've watched people do that. It's like, no, let Copilot do what Copilot does. It is here to make your job easier. It's not here to take your job away. It's here to help you be more productive. So anyway, just so you can see that it automatically has capabilities built in. So we will be able to access all kinds of information if we want to do the transcripts of our meeting that we have. We want to go into the notes of the meeting and come back and add in more tasks that can be assigned to other people. All of that is linked directly to Outlook and directly to Planner/To-Do. So anytime that something is added and you are assigned to it, it's automatically going to other places as well. And they've made some better enhancements to that connectivity that we have. It's actually a lot quicker. There's some kind of security things that they did in the background as well. But just so you could see, we've got some enhancements when it comes to all of this. And then another thing that I want to mention, so enough about meetings for right now. Loop components, because I was demonstrating some loop components in this scenario, I'm going to go back to chat and I'm going to go to a normal chat here instead of the meeting recap. When it comes to loop components, there's been some enhancements, making sure that we really have a better way to be able to share these loop components across our 365. So the scenario that I really want to do with these loop components here today is, let's say that the team needs quick information. We want input from multiple people before we roll out a project or an update or whatever the case might be before it's all finalized. So we'll use a loop component instead of sending separate replies or attachments to an email. A loop component can be a better idea on how to use this. So loop components are increasingly portable across our 365 experiences and can support live tables, task lists, checklists, voting tables, progress trackers, Q&A, and expansion into loop pages and workspaces when they're available, if you have those pages and stuff created. But if we use these in meetings, or chats, channels, because loop components are available in all three of those parts of Teams. A loop component is useful when you want everybody to be able to edit that same small piece of content without creating another attachment or a separate document. What is newer about Loop is that it's no longer just a quick shared note. Loop components are live pieces of content that really can travel from one 365 app to another. So, like a table or a checklist that started in Teams can also be shared in Outlook. They can be shared in a whiteboard or other 365 locations. And people can keep editing the same live content instead of creating separate copies. This is best for quick shared lists, open questions, things like task lists, decision outputs, meeting prep. I do a lot of meeting prep loop components. I use them for checklists as well. So the practical kind of what's new with this is Teams is becoming more connected to Loop, to Outlook, to Planner, and of course to Copilot. So these loop components that start in one place can be actively used other places. So depending on where it is that you go and what exactly it is that you're using. So let's say that we want to have a loop component that's available for us to be able to document information about our project we have coming up. Once you create that table or whatever loop component option it is that you choose, that can actually be then connected to other places. Like if I want to use it in a chat, I want to use it in an email because now we want to send it off to other people or whatever your case might be, we can actually do that. So I'm not going to demonstrate the loop component feature today, but just so everybody knows, if I'm in a chat or a post, just so you know where the loop component is now, when you go down to type your chat, you actually have this icon. It looks like a little circle. If you hesitate, it will say loop component. When you come into your loop component, you could choose what template you want to use to get started. Once that's created, it can be shared. Now, if you're in Teams and you're in a channel, you can use a loop component on a post tab. So if you go to create a new post in a channel, you can add in a loop component to where you have type a message. You can click on that loop component icon as well. So I don't know if you're a loop component user, but I love them. And I like them even more now that they're easier to really kind of use elsewhere. But loop components can be a great feature to use. I use them the most, though, in meeting agendas, using it for that task list for follow up after the meeting is done. Okay. But let's talk about these posts real quick. So when you are in a team and you're in a post, you're not always going to see post, by the way, because when a channel is created, when you create a new channel, you can actually choose, do you want it to be a conversation or do you want it to be a post? A post gives you the capability of quicker and easier ways to be able to have not only a subject, but you can also have it, Copilot be available. Copilot is an icon in your chat that you're doing, your post, so that if you write content, you need a little help on rewriting it, you can use Copilot to have it help you write or rewrite content. So that's been enhanced, but where it's been enhanced is with the new Copilot capabilities, not necessarily how it's used in Teams, in a channel, etc. But the part that I wanted to mention when it comes to doing these posts versus a conversation is this is what your post is going to look like, where we could say new employee, and I could be putting in information about we have Brenda Larson joining us starting Monday, whatever. You could have that information like you always did. Once you click post, you have the capability, of course, of being able to have other people reply to it. So that's one way of using communication in a channel. But depending on, let me go to, here we go. Depending on how the channel was set up, this particular channel called Venue and Logistics actually has conversation instead of post. So when a channel gets created, make the decision, do you want it to be a conversation, which is more like just a chat window, or do you want it to actually be a post? You could do either. So just so you could see, if you come into a conversation, you can have a conversation, and I'm just going to click send on that one and start a new one. Down at the bottom, it says message, and it's letting you know which channel you're in to help verify that you're putting the conversation in the right channel. But you have your icons just like you did with a post down at the bottom, including using Copilot. Copilot itself has been enhanced on the way that it's working with you, just so you're aware. So if I came in and I started a chat that I wanted to have with these venues, did anyone find a good location in Denver yet? I could put that information out there, but if I need help with Copilot, how should I really word that? I want to make sure everybody understands. I could go to Copilot, ask it to rewrite it, and this has been modified. This has been enhanced to make it easier for us to understand. We don't get this big long menu like we used to. You could see that it has rewrite, has proofread, and we have adjust, which is going to give you your menu for your make it concise, make it sound more casual, whatever the case might be. So we could choose what we want it to do by writing it in also. I'm just going to say rewrite. So this window has been enhanced. It's not brand new. So it's going to say, has anyone come across a good place in Denver yet? So it rewrote it a little bit. I could say rewrite it again or, proofread it, do whatever, but I'll just say replace. Now, of course, I do have a separate place now to get into attachments. So whether you're doing a post, you're doing a regular chat, or you're doing a conversation in a channel that has conversation instead of a post, we now have an icon for attach file. In the past, we would have to go to a menu, the dot, dot, dot menu, to have it bring up a list of apps you could add in, which is now a plus sign. It's no longer the dots, it's a plus sign, but we don't have to go there to get to attach a file. It's convenient with the consistency of the paperclip icon. I'm so glad they finally changed that because it was confusing. We used to go to the dots or the plus sign now, and we would have that attached file in there. That didn't make sense to people, so just so you know. But what if I started this and I I don't want to finish this right now. I got called away. I have to go do something else. Let's say that I left this and I automatically went over to a different team and then I needed to look at these different channels and different things. It automatically saves drafts. So on the left-hand side, under your category called Quick Views, you can go into followed threads. So you can actually follow a thread of a conversation. There's a menu that you can go into, the dots menu. Also, you can go into Discover, but there's this drafts category. So everything that you started is going. So here's that draft message that I was doing a minute ago called in the logistics venue and logistics category. So if I want to get back to that because I stepped away from it, go to the drafts folder now. This to me is one of my favorite things because do you ever get interrupted? I think it happens to us multiple times throughout the day. So if I leave something because I have to go look up something else, it's going to save it in the drafts. So I can always get back to it. So let's say that I'm not in drafts and I went back to that venues and logistics. It's still down here in the window waiting for us as well. So just so you know, it's quick and easy to get back to the drafts just by going to the new folder called drafts. Highly recommend doing that. So you can quickly and easily jump right back in on things you were working on. So anything that you start and you move away from it, you can get back to it now by just going to drafts. So it makes it so much easier. So take advantage of these quick views that we have available. Now, searching in Teams has 100% been enhanced. Be well, I shouldn't say 100%. It was pretty good before, but the search has been improved on how it's finding things and the display that we get when we are searching for things as well. So if I go to the search up at the top, you can see that I can limit what it is that I want to search in. Do I want to search in meetings? Where do I want to search? Otherwise, it's going to search everywhere. But if you want to narrow it down because it's related to a file, it's related to a channel, you could state that so that it only is searching within that category now instead of searching through everything. So if I just leave it here and I say new employee, it's going to automatically look for anything related to new employee. So I've got this file, I've got this file. But if I press enter, it's going to automatically give me everything related to new employee. And it's going to give us the capability up at the top to say, I just want to see messages, I just want to see files, I just want to see channels, or whatever category based on new employees. So you still can filter that way with the search. So it's giving us more options, easier to follow. But otherwise, what does it do here? So here's messages. Then it's going to show me files. So it's categorizing the results. So you can see as I scroll down, it has categories for people, group chats, etc., which it didn't find any results for new employee. But the great part is you can always get back to it just by clicking on it. It will automatically be able to take you back to, on the right-hand side, it's taking you back to that specific place that it was located at. Now, this one happens to be a post in a channel. I could go to the top right and click on Go to Channel, and it will automatically take me directly to where that was located at. So the enhancements, the improvements that they've made there have really been wonderful. So we can have the integration of being able to search for information so much easier. So we can turn a Teams conversation into several follow-up items. We could say follow-up works that is based on a specific conversation. We can be looking for whatever it is that we need to find coming through Microsoft Teams. So we could go into a channel and say that we want to find something because it was, 2 weeks ago, find anything that was related to the new building. whatever the case might be. And it's so quick and so organized that it really helps you narrow everything down specifically. Because if I just say project and I give the project name, I want to be able to find all files, all conversations, group chats. I want to be able to find meetings related to it. I want to find everything related to this name of this project we're working on. In the past, we would have to search individually. It wasn't easy to find things. So they've made some major improvements when it comes to finding things within Microsoft Teams. The Copilot enhancements and features that we have are related specifically to how Copilot responds these days. They are still making some major improvements to Copilot throughout the end of this year, but newer Copilot powered Teams experience, they are enhanced with the meeting capabilities, with the recaps, the Copilot searches I was mentioning, facilitator as a shared meeting assistance. We have interpreter that is now part of Copilot that is really wonderful. We can have Copilot be searching through audio or video recaps. We can have agents that also can be used through channel experiences. Of course, that's going to be, though, depending on your licensing, your policies, and possibly your rollout status. So, not everybody is going to have all those features immediately available. But just so you know, those are either available now or coming soon to your Microsoft Teams. So, there's a lot of great improvements when it comes to working in Copilot in general. We'll talk about the next upcoming session that we have here in a minute, too. But really, kind of to wrap up our session today, because time went by so fast, I didn't get through everything that I was hoping to do. But your handout will be a great reference tool for you to go back through the handout, get the things that we didn't have time to cover today, and really get a deeper dive on everything. But let's bring this back to your real work. Choose one place to improve this week, one reoccurring meeting, one active channel, one project workspace, or one communication workflow. Your first improvement doesn't need to be something big. It might be changing your habits on when you set up a Teams meeting, making sure that you're going into the options and making those changes. Taking advantage of letting Copilot help you create those meetings. Okay, creating planner tasks so that it automatically, before, during, and after, you could be adding in tasks to your meetings, where now the enhancements with Microsoft Planner and To Do come into play with that as well. So we get the improvements on those apps too. So the important habit is to make Teams a place where work is easier to find, easier to confirm your decisions that have been made, easier for follow-up, easier for tracking what needs to be done and where things are going to reside. It should be a daily go-to app. And I think these improvements that they have made have definitely changed my mind on how often I'm going to be in Microsoft Teams. Even the user interface on the left-hand side, your navigation pane, has been enhanced. It's less is more. You get familiar with an icon. They're just trying to improve those capabilities for everybody. So I absolutely love the improvements in not only Copilot, but the improvements we've also have had built into Copilot itself. So Macy, I'm going to bring it back to you. Did we have any questions from anyone today?
It doesn't look like it, but if anybody has any last minute questions that they want to drop in either the chat box or the question and answer box, you feel free to do so now.
Okay.
While we're waiting for any more questions to come in, just as we wrap up, we will be having another webinar around Copilot, but this one will be around Excel, Word, and PowerPoint. And we have that scheduled for October 14th, same time, 10:30 to 11:30. So just be on the lookout. About a month beforehand, we'll start promotion for that and sending out invitation links. But we would love for you to join us for that one as well.
And there are a lot of great improvements there. It is very exciting. Can't wait for that one.
Awesome. Well, it looks like we don't have any questions. Just want to thank you guys for joining us again. Of course, if you have any questions, feel free to follow up with myself or somebody else at the IT company. Our phone number is listed there, and then also you should all have my contact for email. It was sent out yesterday. So feel free to reach out if you guys have any follow-up questions or any questions about anything else that we can help you with. And if I don't know the answer, I can refer back to Jolynn, and she will
Yes.
gladly help me get you the right direction for whatever you need. And then we will be sending out the recording for this as well. So feel free to share that with your team and anybody that you think it might be helpful for.
Sounds good. Okay.
All
Thank
right.
you.
Well, thank you again for joining and thank you, Jolynn.
Thanks.